This is Ignacio Cruz-Mendoza, a truck driver that was sentenced to 1 year in prison for tragically killing Scott Miller. Now, Scott Miller was only 64 years old. Now, the issue is this truck driver here, Ignacio Cruz-Mendoza, is not only an illegal migrant, but he also doesn't even have a commercial driver's license. Now, the fact that this case occurred in Colorado is particularly interesting because back in 2021, right here, we see the story of truck driver sentence lowered to 10 years after originally receiving 110 years for a fatal crash. Now, here it says that Governor Jared Polis announced the commutation, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, of Rigel Agreria Medeiros. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and I'm not trying to come across as insensitive. I'm not trying to mock anybody. I love everybody, and shout out to my Spanish-speaking audience. You guys are awesome. But the governor commuted his sentence, and what's interesting is that Jared Polis is still the governor of Colorado, and the fact that this semi-truck driver who is not even authorized to be in the United States, who's not even authorized to even work in the United States, who's been on ISIS's radar for 22 years, he only gets 1 year in jail. But for 22 years, he's been a criminal. He's been a career criminal, okay? How does he only get 1 year in jail? What is going on, Governor Polis? Why are you allowing this? Now, I just want to make myself clear. I'm not against legal migration. I feel like if you want to be in the United States, I definitely think you should do it the right way. And I think that people who are authorized to work in the United States, who are, natural born citizens, who have work permits, work visas, etc., they absolutely have a right to work in the United States, and I definitely do. They have a right to a fair wage. But the issue with illegal immigration is that time and time again, these people come in and they undercut wages, and they displace hardworking people who have the right to work in the United States, okay? And that obviously includes the American truck driver or anybody that's legally authorized to be, a truck driver. We are being displaced, okay? And that's just my opinion. You can feel free to agree, disagree. Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to have this conversation with you guys, seriously. The thing about it is, you don't even see situations like this on the internet until something drastic happens, when lives are lost, all right, when there are fatalities, and you're just left sitting. How can this happen? This is 100% preventable. And I do want to mention that the person that died, his name was Scott Miller. He was only 64 years old. He was driving home from the grocery store less than 6 miles from his home at the time of the accident. And his widow, Deanne Miller, says that we should still be together. This should have never happened. He should still be alive. And my condolences to Miss Deanne Miller. I don't think she'll ever come across this video, but I just wanted to make that clear. I really am sorry that this happened to you. This is obviously a tragedy, and I really do think that it is preventable. I 100% agree. Now, I do want to get into, reacting to some other YouTubers and, some other comments left on these videos that have touched on this subject of illegal immigration, because I think that it is very important that we talk about this, starting with our man Travel Trucker. Now, he says something very profound in this video, and I do want to highlight this.
I feel like the illegal migrant situation is going to be worse. It's going to make trucking worse. And just follow me now. I feel like the illegal migrants coming into the country is going to make inspections more frequent, which means more trucks are going to fail. There are going to be a lot more checkpoints along the I-10 corridor between Florida and Texas, El Paso, Laredo, et cetera, even in Canada. I also feel like it's going to be a lot of cheap labor going on as far as the way freight is packaged. When you go out at these job sites, they're going to be loading stuff wrong, they're going to be unloading stuff wrong, and they're not going to be documented. And I also feel like the migrant situation is going to drive the price down of freight.
Okay, and that's the issue right there. And my thing is with these carriers that are hiring these illegal migrants, these corporations, I feel like a lot of this has to do with corporate greed as well. Because instead of paying the, hardworking truck drivers, the people who are legally authorized to work here, a fair wage, because they do have the right to work here, okay? Instead of doing that, they're just okay with bending and breaking all sorts of laws, not having any type of integrity or morality just to save money. I think that's asinine, and I don't think you should be in business if you're not okay with just paying truck drivers a little bit more. All right. You're okay with them being without a job. You're okay with them accepting lower wages. You're okay with even owner operators, lease operators, independent contractors going out of business because freight rates are very, very cheap. And it's been like this for years now, actually. In fact, let's go to this, video right here by the Asian Mother Trucker channel. This is Alex right here for those of you who don't know, and I'm not sure why you wouldn't know who he is because he's like one of the biggest trucking channels on YouTube. But he actually brings up the fact that multiple drivers have emailed him and messaged him emphasizing the fact that illegal truck drivers are the reason why trucking companies are filing for bankruptcy in America. So let's just take a brief look at his video, shall we?
This truck driver basically said in the email that he is blaming B1 drivers, foreign illegal drivers from foreign countries coming into the States that are basically lowering the freight rates. And that's why we are in an economy that we are now. And so, I want to talk about this. And he basically said, what is your thoughts about this, Alex? And my true thoughts, hey, love me or hate me, legal is legal, illegal is illegal, right? If you're legally allowed to drive a truck in America, then you should be allowed to do that. If you're not, then that's the problem.
Exactly. 100% agree. There shouldn't be anything controversial about me or him or anybody mentioning that, okay? And that's just my opinion. Now, I wonder why these media outlets, why aren't they talking about this issue more? Because if anything, trucking makes the world go round. We keep the economy moving, especially in America. If trucking is collapsing, then that means the economy is collapsing. I don't get why more and more media outlets aren't covering this. And why does it have to take a tragedy like the one I just mentioned with Scott Miller passing away for people to actually start talking about it, for people to actually start bringing it up? Because, make no mistake, there are currently illegal migrants right now on the road posing a danger, posing a threat to society, but literally they're not getting any attention. And I wonder why they're not getting attention. Are they trying to protect somebody? Are they trying to protect a certain administration in office? I don't know. That's just speculation. But I do think this is something that we should pay attention to. We should raise awareness about for sure. Now that I mentioned the fact that these migrants, they definitely do pose a danger to society, especially if they don't have the proper training or the credentials to operate a CMV. What's even worse is that more than likely they don't speak, read, write, or understand English very well, which is illegal. Okay, that is an FMCSA regulation. All right, and I actually came across this video by Bonehead Truckers. All right, and the name of the video is "The Number One Problem in the Trucking Industry." He released this video 3 days ago, and right here he even outlines the law from the FMCSA website, and let's read it together. It says, "General qualifications of drivers: can read and speak the English language sufficiently to converse with the general public, to understand highway traffic signs and signals in the English language, to respond to official inquiries, and to make entries and reports on records." So there you have it. Why is it that these motor carriers are literally bending and breaking the law? in hiring people. And it's not just, small mom and pop carriers. It's also mega carriers by like night transportation. As you can see here, this truck here is rolled over on the highway, and here's some background to this. Now, there's the trainer and the trainee. Now, the trainer did everything he could to help the trainee, and he even instructed the trainee not to use cruise control on the highway, especially on curbs, because this trailer was fully loaded with pallets. So, of course, there's much more rollover risk associated with the fully loaded trailer, obviously. But the trainer and the trainee have a language barrier. The trainee cannot speak English very well, which is dangerous, which is illegal. And I wonder, how did this trainee slip through the cracks? What is going on with night transportation? I mean, you require your truck drivers to have, a clean, drug test. You make them do a hair follicle test, a urinalysis test. You make sure that, they have a clean background. They're not a SAP driver, but you don't do what's also very important, and make sure that these truck drivers at least understand how to read, write, and communicate in English. Because, obviously the last thing that you want is something like this to happen. And when they, get questioned and interrogated by authorities, they won't be able to defend themselves. And that poses all sorts of liability and risk for your company and the truck driver. So why is it that a truck driver like this is able to slip through the cracks? At least at Schneider, they make you take a reading test to make sure you can at least comprehend and understand what you're reading. When it comes to, road signs, you want to be able to understand them so you won't, end up on Bonehead Truckers. But hey, look, that's just my opinion. I'll end the video here, and I want to hear from you. How do you feel about the migrant crisis in trucking? Is there an illegal, I need to emphasize that, is there an illegal migrant crisis in trucking, or are you directly impacted by it? Let me know in the comments down below. You guys are the best audience on the internet, and if you enjoy videos like this, as always, comment, rate, share, and subscribe. I'm Tasia Woods, and I'll see you next time.